In this video, I want to talk about the biblical concept of being so-called lost. For example, Matthew chapter 10, verse 6, where we see the King James translates this word in the Greek lost. Go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And if you open this verse in the interlinear, you see it's a verb, apolumi. And then you can click here on the number. And then you see how the King James has translated it. Perish, destroy, lose, be lost, lost, and then some miscellaneous. But what we have to understand is the stem of this word, lumai, is in a word family. And this is a preposition, apo, governing motion or location away from the surface of something. And then the stem is from the word family to loose things or loosen. So it's an away from loosening, literally. Where here you see the Devar translation translates this verb, apolumi, as wholly loosen away. Okay, so what is wholly loosen away? Where one of the many occurrences of this verb in 2 Thessalonians 2:10, apolumi, shows us that to be wholly loosened away is not being saved. Now, the context here is talking about the foolish locked out of the wedding at midnight, which I talk about these verses in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 in other videos, where if we consider 1 Corinthians 1:18, here we see Paul uses the same verb, apolumi, according to foolishness and to those being saved, the ability of God. So the foolishness points, of course, to the foolish virgins. Here, when the sober-minded virgins who are prepared enter into the wedding feasts, hereafter comes the foolish virgins who are saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. Watch my video 98 here. But then also in my video 82, where I talk about the parable of the wedding feast invitations in Matthew 22, we see an early meal, which is pre-midnight, and then in verse 10, we see supper, which is post-midnight, where in verse 7, those wholly loosened away, apolumi, are locked out of the wedding because they refused the invitation into that order. And of course, when we understand how to truly correctly cut the word of truth concerning the orders of coming into the wedding feasts, we know that the third watchtimers locked out, foolish, still have opportunity to come into the wedding after they are wholly loosened away, apolumi, into the third watch time, because blissful are those. However, there is no blissful are those for the fourth watch time, which also has a whole away loosening, which one example would be here in Matthew 5:29, which would be the apolumi into the Gehenna of the fire, which is the context of the cursed of Matthew 25:41, not midnight, but the third watch time conclusion. So we have to understand how to correctly cut the word of truth to place context into the proper orders. Where here in Jude, notice how he says that the Lord, once having saved the people out of the earthland of Egypt, which is a type of the third watch time, Exodus, but the second time wholly loosened away those not faithing, besides the angels not guarding their own, etc., which again points to Matthew 25:41 in the judgment of that prepared for the diabolos and his angels. Okay, so this is what I call the right-left paradigm, where my least brothers, they're wholly loosened away at midnight, but then they come into the least allotment of the heavens, dragging along, third watch time conclusion, where then the second time, those not faithing still are into the curse, which is the fourth watch time. So here we have Third, fourth watch time paradigm, right hand, left named paradigm. Where again, apolemai in 2 Thessalonians 2:10 are locked out of the wedding at midnight. They did not have received the love of the truth beforehand for their being saved, which they will still be saved into the completion of the third watch time, where again, here Paul speaks of the foolishness and whole away loosening, where there's still a well smelling into so-called salvation, into the allotment of the right hand, where then when we read right here in 2 Corinthians, since we are a well smelling of Christ to God in those being saved, who are loving the truth, who will come into the wedding feast at midnight, and in those being wholly loosened away at midnight. Not the cursed, who are wholly loosened away after the third watch time. It's like strike 3, you're out. Strike 2, you still can be saved. So this is how we correctly cut the word of truth, which the watch time parables give us the ability to do. When Jesus says that the Son of the Human came to seek and to save that which is wholly loosened away, he's talking about third watch time context. The same is seen here in Luke 15:4 with the 100 sheep, and one of them wholly loosens away, would not leave the 99 to go to the one, which the sheep of John 10, who enter the courtyard, which the door of the courtyard is not the door of the wedding at midnight. So they're coming into the door of the courtyard at midnight to be the herdsmen of the other sheep who are wholly loosened away, to bring into the completion the third watch time conclusion. Where when Jesus dispatched the 12 as sheep, the figure of sheep amidst wolves, this is a parallel or type of the sheep of the courtyard in the last days. Where again, if we back up to verse 6, we see apolemai. So go much more to the sheep wholly loosened away, which in John 10 would be those not coming into the courtyard door, but wholly loosened away, which the sheep of the courtyard will herd. When they enter the door of the courtyard, locked out of the wedding door at midnight. Video 65 here. So here again, we have the consistency of the Devar translation concerning this word, the verb, which is wholly loosened away, from G622. G622 translated all these different ways in the King James and other translations, which just copy the King James translation. Where then in the same word family, we have the noun form of the word. From G684, for example, the thief, the coming Antichrist, is the son of the whole away loosening, from the noun of the same verb, apalia, which you see they translated perdition, destruction, waste, damnable, to die, perish, etc., etc., etc. Where here the noun has included the hyphens because it's one word, but it's a compound word with the preposition, etc. So this is the advantage of the Devar translation, because they've maintained consistent translating where it's not necessary for all this confusion right here. Where if having a pattern of words being healthy matters to you, consider replacing your translation with the Devar translation, where this video shows how to get the free software download. God bless.